Okay, good morning, everybody. Get ready for this call this morning. And Tracy, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends. What an exciting day it is. I woke up and grabbed a coffee before my kinetic, and I'm excited. I've turned on I have a mix on my phone called cardio music. It's really like high beat intense. And I love doing that and getting myself going in the morning, and it's all positive music. I know George is the same way. And there is magic to that, isn't there, George? It just gets your blood going and excitement and positive and upbeat, and it's a great way to start your day. I love music so much. Anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit more about events. I'm going to talk about, or I'm going to have join me, Karen and Susan, I think, after I started off, but because I'm going to talk a little bit about being long distance sponsored. That's how Lance and I got involved in the business. Our sponsor was 12 hours away. And it was kind of we kind of sat back on it a little bit, being a little bit frustrated, thinking, gosh, other people have groups, that they can work with and they can rely on and they can lean on. And that just wasn't our case. And it wasn't that way for Karen and Susan either. We were very far away from our sponsors. And, it got you into the business of if it's to be, it's up to me. That's just how it was. And you know what? I look back and I think that was probably one of the greatest blessings for Lance and I, is to be able to have to lean on ourselves, that we had to do it. We had to produce it. We had to learn it. We couldn't just we couldn't just go to a meeting. We were the meeting, if you know what I mean. And it's funny because we just got a post on WhatsApp from Holly Rouse, didn't we, this morning? And I love it. It says the best way to get Daniel and your leaders to your area is to start now. To meet people one-on-one, to invite them to your home event, or to go to them and make a home event, right? To do that one-on-one. The more consistent you are, the bigger your gatherings will get. And that's the absolute truth. When Lance and I got involved in this industry, we would drive 12 hours every month to go to a seminar in Utah. And it was each way. I mean, it was a long way. And you know what? We learned so much, and we put the effort and we put the money on the line and our effort on the line, that whatever it was going to do, we were going to make it work. And if it was to be, it's up to me. I have to tell you, that's what you're going to have to think about when you're building this business. We went 12 hours each way once a month, and then we would come back and then we would gather who we had and we would teach them what we learned, until that they had that belief that they would go with us. And once you start doing that and people watch you and they see your commitment, they're going to join you in that commitment. I have to tell you, it wasn't easy. Lance and I would go up and we would meet. We would actually sit in an auditorium to listen to the seminar, and we would go and try and find our upline because we didn't. We would go up there. Someone we meet with. We try to get them down to San Diego to help support us, and in the presentations. And they would come down. They'd look at Lance and I, and they'd go back and quit. This happened 7 times. You think it's hard to keep your people in. What about your upline, your sponsors? It was difficult. I was in banking, and it's funny because I came home one day and I said, Lance, this totally goes with our business. This quote, substantial penalty for early withdrawal. And I was talking about my support team. It was crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh. And we would say, hey, look, guys, we're going to make it big. We're going to make it big. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're two, college kids. I don't think so. And they wouldn't believe it. But, eventually we did. And if they would have just stuck around, it was just crazy. And so, coming back to San Diego and knowing that we'd have to build one-on-one. And we're still building one-on-one today. In fact, right before I logged on, last night I asked someone, I said, gosh, Susan, can we get together? And can I come over and have lunch with you? And she didn't answer me back last night, but just when I logged on at 11 she said at 11:30, let's meet for lunch. And what am I going to do? I'm going over there to do a one-on-one with her. And I have to tell you, one-on-ones are magic because you're actually just sitting there across the table, like I will be tonight or today, with Susan. And I'm going to ask her, what do you see for the rest of your life? What makes you excited? And I'm going to let her talk, and we're going to get into the presentation. She knows I'm coming over to show her a presentation. I said, "Look, I need to sit down with you." She loves the collagen. She's been a customer, but I need to move her forward. Hey, there's a business part of this, and she's getting ready to retire, and it's just perfect timing for her. And so I'm super excited about that. I wanted to show you though what I do. I downloaded my favorite 12 slides from the new presentation for a one-on-one. I had it, there's like 24, so I wanted to go push it down a little bit because I don't want to extend. We can't do that long of a time on a one-on-one. And so I actually just downloaded it into a PDF, and I'm just going to flip it on my phone. And it'll be very easy. I'll turn my phone sideways and flip it. But I have to tell you, yesterday I was at the fish store. Lance and I have a aquarium. We went to Bora Bora, and we went diving, and there were so many beautiful fish. We thought we want to see this every day, and we came back and we got a fish tank, a big, beautiful saltwater aquarium. And I was at the fish store yesterday, and what's so funny is I pulled out my phone because I was talking to the guy, and I said, what got you into owning this fish store? And he says, I used to dive and I loved it. I wanted to see the fish all the time. And I'm like, that's exactly why we got in, because we were in Bora Bora. He goes, you went to Bora Bora? And I said, actually, I went to Bora Bora for free. I was on an incentive trip. And he's like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. I said, and some of these fish, I was diving in Bora Bora and I saw all these kind of fish, and they weren't, $80, $90 per fish. You guys charge a lot. He started laughing, and he said, well, tell me how would you get on a free incentive trip? And I said, oh, I would love to show you, but you know what? I pulled out my phone and my phone was dead. I'm like, what the heck? And I wanted to flip through my little slides just to show him really quick. And I have to tell you, I told him to wait 1 minute, and I went out to my car and I actually had my printout. I went ahead and printed out, and I put 2 slides per page. There's 3 front to back, so I have 12 slides that I just printed. And I like having this just in case. I don't know, a lot of you are so tech savvy, but that is not Tracey Smith. I'm not tech savvy. I mean, a lot of people think I am in my organization. They're like, hey, can you put that to PDF? And I'm like, yes, I'll figure it out. And I do. But sometimes things happen, and I just loved having this. And you want me to show you this really quick? This is my one-on-one. I think you're going to laugh at it, but it's so fast. I'm like, look, this is a company called Three. Lance and I are founders of this, and we started it 2.5 years ago. It's just absolutely amazing. We believe, just like when we've been talking, in wellness, time freedom, and we want to have a purpose in our life, just like we talked about, right? You want to go to Bora Bora? He's like, yeah. And then I flip over the page. Why 3? Because we're a science-based company. We have global expansion. We're in 14 or 15 different territories. Ground floor timing, it's brand new. It's an amazing business. This is our leadership. We have a CEO who's the brightest in the field, young, savvy, loves to work, loves people. And we also have a Caltech trained doctor who actually put a lot of our products, most of our products, in the PDR. Absolutely amazing. Do you know what the PDR is? Physicians Digital Reference. Is absolutely amazing. That's where doctors can go and resource. I mean, there's no trick in the science of this business or in our products. These are our simple 6. They're absolutely amazing. All wellness products, all in the PDR. So we're not crossing our fingers hoping that these products are good. We know they're good. We have third-party testing, epigenetic studies, and I can send all of that to you. Level up our routine. We have other additional products that are incredible. Skincare. We actually have an energy drink, and I'll leave you one of those. Science and technology, absolutely amazing. Here's all of our stuff. I can send you all of this and videos. 6 ways to earn income. We retail, intro bonuses, team commissions, leadership matching. There's so many different ways that you can make money. I actually make money on all categories of this. I love it. Team commissions. We just build two groups. And so you're going to introduce two people. We're going to get them involved. It'll qualify you to make money. And from those two people, we'll get two people for them and we'll build this out. Only two legs. So anyone that you meet, they'll just go into two different organizations for you. Super easy. It's not complicated. And so these are our different packs. We have 4 different packs that we offer. You're a business owner, so I'm sure that you'd want to go with the Pro Collection because you know business, you understand that. And science, I got to flip it over. And my last page, next step. So we'll enroll you, it costs $30 plus your pack. We're going to place your initial order, that's that. And then we're going to set you up on Smart Ship because when you generate volume and you have people generate volume, all of those points count to you. So we never want you to miss that. And so we'll enroll you. And in January, we'll have you and your people that we get involved go into Dallas Fort Worth and we'll have a major event and it's amazing. That's it. That's my one-on-one. And then I get back to why, so I'll say that's what we do. We build it up and this company has incentive trips. They're amazing. I'm qualifying for my next one. It's going to be a cruise, just like with Bora Bora. A lot of the top leaders just went to Monaco. Absolutely amazing. I know this works. I've been in the industry for 30 years. How do you want to get started? That's it. That's what we do. We go one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one. And once you get building that and then you follow up, it's just such an easy pattern. And that's what I'll be doing today at 11:32 with Susan. So, I hope that my impression to you is that when your upline comes in or you have a meeting that comes to your area, that's going to be a multiplier to your business. You're the adder. I know this for a fact because the first time we ever had a support person come down to San Diego when we had an organization, we could fill 800 people in the room. And you think, wow, are you kidding me? But that I have to tell you, when we had the continued 800 people coming, and we were doing events, by the time that sponsor came in, we sold the meeting out twice. So we had 1,750 people there. You know why? Because they wanted to come and see what a CEO Daniel looked like. They wanted to come and see what a Corbin Roush and Holly Roush looked like. They wanted to come and see who these people were that we were talking about and edifying and saying, you just have to come out. I know this happens because we just been on the road trip. And what's funny is we went to San Francisco. We were going to come back down to Brea, but we had to go through San Luis Obispo and to Pismo Beach where Cindy Maddox is. And she's like, please, please just stop. And she had people at lunchtime come out and join us just to see what Daniel or Lance look like. Because she's talked about them and because she's edified us, we were we made things happen. And because of that, we could turn around and edify her. And now those people know that she knows what she's talking about, and it's just going to grow, 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 and explode. And so that's what happens when you're building by one-on-ones to events to big events, and when you're edifying the people that you're working with. And so I want to just bring in Karen. Karen DeSalvatore, it's so funny. She lives in Connecticut. I live in San Diego, and I think Susan will be on here too. And she's in Houston. We're in very different areas, and we were all working long distance from our sponsors. And if it was to be, it was up to us to make it happen. So maybe Karen can give a few thoughts right now.
Hey, that was great, Tracey. Thank you. And I'm honored to share. We were first introduced to this industry by a stranger. And the good thing about that is that he took time to get to know us because we didn't even have any history. So regardless, if you're going to build a big group, you're going to be coming into strangers. And so it's very important to learn how to develop that relationship. Thankfully, everything I'm going to just share right here in a few minutes can be happening today. Even though we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones, we just didn't have a lot of things, but it didn't matter. We were doing the important things, and our original sponsor, he would just call Colombo every day. And I think, that was really special. He would tell Colombo a joke. He wouldn't tell him about, this big audacious dream. He would develop this trust and fun time and relationship. Then he would always talk about the dream, and our why was to get me home as a full-time mom. So I think that some of these things will be universal, as Tracey was talking about traveling all the time. You know, our next support team was right in town as well for a short period of time. And the same thing, we would do one-on-ones. That was where the magic was. We were taught that, and then we would do a hotel open meeting. But we would all get together, even if we had just gone up to do a one-on-one at something called Howard Johnson's, Hojo's. I don't even know if that even exists anymore. But that was, again, an in-person thing, which is important to know because it's all about building the relationship. And also making sure you're still stoking the why. Why are they even here? Because by calling and talking to them, we're going to find out a little bit more. Tracey's going to find out a little bit more from Susan today. I think it was Susan. You'll find out more about what her why is. So those are so important. We did that. So I would say the sort of the lifeblood was communication. And last night I was trying to remember, Claude, do you remember that voice messaging? What did we do? We used to get messages because we were in the Amway business, and our upline was, the big upline was Dexter Bertie Yeager. And there was a system, and when I asked Grok 3, what was that system that Amway used? And in the 1980s, he said, the system that Amway used in the telephone era of the growth of Amway was called Amvox. So anyway, I got tickled and laughed at it because, Tracey, I think you remember this. We would get a voicemail on our telephone, and it would say, hi, this is Dexter. And we were so excited to get a pre-recorded message, but we could share that down into our teams, into our personals for sure. Again, a part of developing that relationship, communication. And we had to learn to reach out to be sure that we were in touch with our support team, especially the initial support team. They left the business. So then we moved up to Don and Nancy Wilson. And that made it difficult because they were in Utah and we're in Connecticut. But so we made plenty of trips out to Utah. And that was a day trip out and a day trip back. But we knew that that's where our bread and butter was. And when Tracey mentioned that word edification, we learned that word edification in the proper way. Because that's not a tool because you're edifying like we would edify Lance and Tracey. Yes, we would and we do. But what it does is it comes back, and it comes back to us as edification. So what it does is it creates a community. It creates relationship and a trust. And when we can edify whoever is coming in, and if it's your own personal support team, for sure, and we can get them on three-way calls, right? But the edification is there because then Lance and Tracey can edify you, and your words become weighted. They're important. They're going to listen. It's like E.F. Hutton talks and people listen. That's what happens because they have walked the walk, and we are going to be able to, with these relationships, the communication skills, and the fact that we're utilizing the magic of the business, and that's the support team that we have because we're building teams, we're developing trust, we're getting excitement. I mean, for heaven's sakes, I can remember we hit a first big level, direct distributor it was called, and they said at that time, our original sponsor said, then you should go, just go look at Cadillacs. And I'm thinking, Cadillacs? My family were Chevys, Chevys, Campbell's family drove Dodges, Cadillac. That wasn't even in our vocabulary. But we started to go to these dealerships and sit in cars, Cadillacs, and smell the new leather. There was something about putting that dream into reality, being able to touch it. So all of the things that we learned and have still done today come from just, finding out somebody's why, developing that relationship, whether your sponsor's in Utah, Lance and Tracey's sponsor was from Utah and they had to go to California to Utah. It doesn't matter if your dream's big enough, you're going to make that happen. And we did those trips too. I can remember we live in Connecticut now. We would go from Maine to Charlotte. It was like nearly 24 hours by the time we did our breaks and everything. And when we would come through Connecticut, which was still 6 hours away, we thought we were home. We're so fired up. And we would convince people to do that with us. That's where it starts to not just add, not just, multiply, it starts to duplicate. And that's where this exponential growth happens as it's happening. So I'm going to turn it back to Tracey. And we're in the prime time. We've got all of these tours going on. We have our own CEO traveling. We've got leaders like thanks to Tracey, like Holly and Corbin. We love the new PowerPoint. What a great idea that you had that printed, Tracey. I love that. And so this is the greatest time right now for us to build. Thanks for asking me to contribute.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. I don't think Susan's on this morning, but I do want to say, she made such a great point about the Cadillac. When you're out there and maybe you've gone through your names list a little bit, which is crazy because of social media, you never can go through your names list. But if you want to build in your own community and be able to do one-on-ones, I know you can do one-on-ones on Zoom also, but I sure love belly to belly. But with the Cadillac example, you need to get out there and you need to be dream building, just like she said. But dream build what interests you. Lance and I, we need new carpet. And so we're going to the carpet stores, and it's so funny because we're going to do, see what we need or what we are inspired or what we want. And we're talking to people and we're bringing our business into the conversation. And so like this guy that we're looking at, to redo some of our carpet in our living room, he says, well, what do you do? And we said, oh, we own our own business. He goes, oh, that's really interesting. And we asked him, are you planning on selling carpet? Is this your career? And he's like, oh, no, this is temporary. I'm just looking for some business that I can be part of. And we're like, well, that's great. We should get together. You just always bring your business into it. If it's jewelry that you like, go to the jewelry stores. If it's, we have a koi pond and we love to see koi, or we like to go to the nursery. We like plants. We have the fish tank, that we like to go and look at all the different fish that we could put in the tank, or the corals. Go where you're interested in, because you're going to be like-minded with those people. With the car, it was so funny. The Cadillac, that was the big thing, back in the day. And it's so funny because Lance and I looked at a Cadillac so much, and I took pictures with Cadillacs, and we bought a Cadillac, and we looked back and we're like, no way, 3 years ago, we took a picture with that exact same car. I have it, on my dream board. It was so funny. And here we were, 24, 25, driving this huge Brougham Elegance Cadillac. It was crazy. But you just have to build that dream. Is it motorhomes? What is it that gets you so excited that you will work and do anything for? And you'll have that whole group of people watching you go after it and attain it. That's what you're doing, is you're putting, every time you do a one-on-one, it's like you have a coliseum of people. And even if they say yes or no, really doesn't matter. It's just the activity that's going to get you to have this huge organization. But every time you do a one-on-one, you're just picking up that prospect and putting them in your arena, and they're all going to watch you. And will they all activate? No, but most will. Because you're going to show them the belief and the activity, and you're going to be on the cruise, and you're going to do all of these things, right? It's every time you do it, it's just like putting, you have a jar of quarters, right? And you just, every prospect you do, you take the quarter out and you're putting it in your pocket every time that you're doing it. The quarter's not very much money anymore, but you get my gist. Anyway, that's what we have for you today. George, I'm going to give it back to you. And hey, you guys, really quick, St. Louis is tonight. Get in there. I know you may not live in St. Louis, but you know somebody in St. Louis that you can get to that meeting. Jacksonville is on Saturday. We have a meeting in Connecticut, actually on the 13th. 19th is Charlotte, 20th is Pennsylvania. Remember to have your calendar out there so that when you're talking to people and you're maybe on social media tonight, winding down, you can say, hey, there's another meeting in Jacksonville. I know someone in Jacksonville, Florida. I can get to that meeting. All of those meetings are, again, are you're picking up that prospect and putting them in your arena. Fill your arenas. There you go, George.
Thank you very much. And about presentation simplicity, it's interesting because That's something that, as I mentioned on the Saturday, I know many of you don't go in the Saturday, but the importance of having the presentation many ways, and one of them to print it out. And by the way, it's one of the cool things that we have a lot of those information. You go to the Legacy Makers group on Facebook and you can download the presentation, you can print it out, you choose the slides that you want to print. Even me, when I do the Thursday presentation, you don't see all the slides because I do the presentation in 22 minutes. I don't know if you know that. Because if today people don't have a bit long attention span anymore. Actually, somebody was joking, maybe it's true. They say that goldfish had more attention span than a human. But maybe today that's the case. But thank you very much for the two of you, Karen and Tracy. You did an amazing job. And it's true. Events is even a face-to-face presentation. That's an event. That's an event, and it still works. And the more we use, the better. It's why it's nice to have that presentation. Some of you probably prefer to have it in an iPad, but there's something about paper. I don't know what. There's something about paper. But I have a book. I print it out and I have it in a folder, and I have the iPad. I love to use my iPad because I am a nerd, as you know. I have said many times. But anyway, and the cool thing that today, when Tracey and Karen were in that company, start with the letter A, at the time, mostly was face to face. Now you were creating events like the one that you created, you have so many people, and long distance was real long distance because you had to drive. Here you don't have to drive 12 hours. You have a Zoom. That's so powerful. But I thank you very much. It's great, and it's to keep it simple. Caroline said, I will make a placemat version like we had last time. Yeah, and we have another platform. We have a placemat presentation. That was so cool. I remember Caroline, a group developer in Northern California at the time. That would be cool to have something like that again. But anyway, anybody has a comment or because it was amazing. And today was very simple for people that say, we have to learn technology? No, just print it out and have it in the screen. You can start like that. Now, you feel uncomfortable with technology, sign up somebody that is not uncomfortable with technology, and that person, the one that help you in the Zooms, for example. Although, like I said before, I recommend everybody to get a Zoom, and all of you have access to a Zoom and learn how to use it, because you don't want to be limited just because I am scared of technology. Zoom is simple, but at the same time, remember the basics. The basics always work. Anybody else has a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, George. Real quick, I like what Tracey and Karen do because that's the way I like to work, one-on-ones. And the other thing is when you do belly-to-belly one-on-ones, you can actually bring a samples with you.
Yes.
And, and use it in front. I did that yesterday with my hairdresser, and I just I'm enrolling her now on the collagen because she was saying to me, how come your hair is so good and your nails are so good? I said, it was my collagen. And I had her on another platform, and she says, well, do I have to carry inventory? I said, no. And she liked that. I said, just to get a QR code, zoom it, and it's going to be, you're done. So, belly to belly, like Tracey and Karen, what goes around comes around. It's old times coming back. So.
Yes. Still, don't forget technology. People under 40 are very into technology. Very into technology. They like the face-to-face, etc., but they lose patience on the face-to-face because I noticed that. But they want to talk about technology right away.
Right, but you have your phone app, and you can share with them right in person how to do it. And
Yes.
then you share, see, look how easy it is, and then they get impressed by that too.
Yeah, we did that. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of nurses that live in St. George. They got excited when they found out about the technology, and we were doing the presentations in face to face, and they're becoming really good on social media, getting people, customers, and distributors. I think in 1 week. They sign up a bunch of people, but it's so important that you have all of it, all the enchilada, the whole thing. Now, but the face-to-face, so important, by the way, make us better. By the way, the only thing that's missing from Zoom, we need a transporter where we can have transport instantly a sample of Eternal or something like that. We don't have that technology yet. Who knows when, but we don't have it yet. Lovey, go ahead.
Oh, good morning. Thank you so much, George. Thank you, Tracey. I just want to say, I love how you did that presentation. You made it super simple, super clear because I'll be honest with you, when I do presentations, sometimes I struggle to find the right words. But you were just yourself and it was just so perfect. I really, really love that about you. You're just super natural. You know what I mean? So I just really admire that about you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thank you, Levy. I did want to say too is when I was with the fish guy, he wanted the paper, and I thought, well, that's very interesting, that he wanted to keep it. But there is something about paper. It really keeps your attention. If you're on your phone and you get notification, I don't know if any of you, maybe I'm ADD, because when I get into something and then I have a notification, then I go sideways. It's even like reading. I read much better when I'm holding a book than I am online on my the Kindle app, because you get all over the place. There is something about having this and just keep flipping through and looking at it and reading it. There's something about paper.
George, you're muted.
George, you're muted.
Hey, George.
George,
We can't hear
you're
you.
still muted.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought you could read my lips. Come on. Get on the program. No, no. On one of the things that I do with my phone to avoid being distracted, you and your I don't know how it's on an Android, but here you can click on a button and then you click Do Not Disturb, and you don't get any messages. Like I'm doing in a meeting right now. I have a no disturb, because in that way I don't get distracted as somebody send a text or a call or something like that. Especially when you are in a face-to-face presentation, make sure, because even if you are with paper, sometimes you see and you say, oh, holy cow, oh, hold on a second, I have to take this. No, make sure that you are 30 minutes at least connected with the person. Something else that's interesting, when we go back 20 years plus back, we didn't have a cell phone. We were there focused 100% with the person. Well, do the same thing. Make sure you put that Do Not Disturb, and then when you finish, you go back to your phone, and then you are not going to be distracted. It's something that I learned because I noticed one time, and not long time ago, I was talking to somebody, and I keep looking because every time, boop, the screen was lighting up. And I said, hold on a second. And I have to put the Do Not Disturb. I always do it in the morning. Once in a while, I forgot to do it, but always I have it in every presentation that I do. It could be a presentation that we are doing on Zoom, or like now. I don't want the distortion to be distracted. And then when you take it off, the phone is going to tell you what happened while you were having a Do Not Disturb. And I look at that. The iPhone does that. I don't know if Android does. But the iPhone tell you what happened while you had the Do Not Disturb. But anyway, anybody else, by the way, or Karen or Tracy, you want to add one more thing before we go?
Just have a great day, you guys. Go make it happen.
Yes, and remember, we have the next meeting. Last night meeting in Chicago was very successful. In Iowa was very successful. Dallas very successful. I applaud everybody that was on those. Oh, Brad. Okay, I can see your hand. Sorry, I didn't see it before. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Shannon and Eric. They had gave me a call and said, hey, can you free up your schedule? We jumped in their vehicle in basically 9 hours of driving. We were able to head down, see the Scooby-Doo van. It was amazing. See amazing people, Kimberly Starr and her group. And I tell you, that kind of energy is so contagious. And I know you said in St. Louis is the meeting today, so if anyone can make the drive, I would recommend it, that's for sure.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you very much for all the people that participated in Chicago last night. Kimberly, I heard that she did a great job working with her team. And the same Holly DeMond in Iowa, and Antoinette in Dallas. Amazing. Our team is exploding. Go ahead, Daryl, before...
Hey guys, I don't want to make
you're
this,
there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't want to make this any longer than it already is, but it's been spectacular this morning. And Tracy, you're amazing. You and Lance are. And putting it on paper, like George says, I've been in the industry for 30 years, and sometimes I just love to sit down with someone and show them, that the TV or the slides are theatrical and it's nice, but sometimes it's a little more warm and cozy when you sit down with them and you share it, and they can ask as you're going. There's no, what about this? What do you mean I only have to have two, And it's pretty awesome. And just to watch you bring that out, my wife and I were sitting here, and first thing we comes to mind is, oh, that's old school, and we're old, so we like that school. you know but old school doesn't mean it's a bad school. It means it worked, and why won't it work today? And it does. And George and I have talked about this over and over and over. I don't know how many napkin discussions I've had at a
Yeah.
restaurant and things like that, where you just draw it out. You go through it, you talk to them, and you show them how the plan works. And George has, in the last, I'll say, 6 weeks, really pushed business about, when you talk to people, talk business. And so I've changed my direction again, because we get caught up in that. We get a little comfortable with product. But the thing of it is if you start showing them numbers, they can't deny it. And that's when it becomes powerful. But thanks, George. And Tracey, you're amazing. And Karen, always amazing.